Để bây giờ mình đổ lỗi trong nghiệp thì đi với nghiệp với phước. Đó. Phước nghiệp hay là phước phước nhân đi đôi với nhau. Mà tại sao mình có nhả qua bên này nhả lại này không thôi. Cho nên bốn qua có mấy vị ở Việt Nam hỏa sư chửi cho ông Đặng. Anh tới hỏa mấy cái gì đâu sầm sòm không hết. Sư chỉ cho phép hỏa sư là 24/24, bất kỳ lúc nào đi thẳng vào vấn đề luôn. Tại sao cái tâm mình hỏa một cái người đó bốc máy lên là đi thẳng vào vấn đề, hỏa càng trào quá nó đang nó đang càng con kiến mà nó cắn này ở chỗ đó nó ngứa mình cũng ok. Ok.
Well, that's that's kind of a part of the teaching and the practice is bills and taxes or something like you have to pay back for your involvement and for your attachment, right? For your desires, for your fears. So you can look at that in a positive or a negative way. So, like you have a certain way you want to live your life, or you have certain responsibilities to people you care about, certain relationships, things like that. And what goes along with that is bills and taxes and obligations, etc. These attachments. The Buddhist teaching is not to try and get rid of that. That's kind of the teaching of capital, the teaching of the modern world. You know, how can we get rid of our debts and get rid of our bills and get rid of our responsibilities so that we can have, so that we can have this freedom in life. But the real freedom is kind of like the real death or the real birth. It's here and now. And so what a lot of people find out when they become very wealthy or when they get what they want, they get the house or they get the car or they get the relationship that they want, etc., or they don't have to worry about paying bills or taxes anymore, what they find out is that that suffering is still there. So the problem is not actually the bills and taxes or the responsibilities. The problem is the suffering. And how do we deal with that suffering? By stopping the mind, stopping the desires, stopping the fears, stopping the involvements in worldly life, in conceptual life now. And you should be willing to give yourself that gift um, very seriously, because no matter how much we work or how much responsibility we have, there is a spaciousness, or there is a clarity, or there is a refreshing quality to seeing things how they are right now. And from that, whatever responsibilities you have can kind of be this joyous activity of entering into the world uh, in a way of service, in a way of generosity, in a way of helping. And we all want to be engaged in the world. You know, we all want to do something worthwhile and meaningful. So when you learn how to stop thoughts or stop compulsion for desire and compulsion for avoidance, anything can be this space of practice, or this practice of freedom, this practice of relief. So we have time to refresh and restart. I'm sorry for the pixelation. Just it's not very strong connection. And a part of why we get so stressed out about bills and taxes and finances, etc., is because we have such a wealth of desire. We have such a wealth of fear. We have such a wealth of attachments. And because of that, we're constantly trying to work to meet the expectation of those attachments. So put down those attachments, and life opens up a lot more. And this is the only time that we have for life, is the timeless now. So the practice is kind of penetrating into the timeless now, if you want to call it that, if you want to call it something. And the potency of this perspective and this kind of practice is it's kind of according to nature, kind of how death is according to nature. Death is according to the now, or the spontaneous, or the immediate. And because life is like that, it means that what we do now is everything. How we practice now, how we show up to now is everything. So instead of trying to fix your life and fix the world and fix your relationships, fixate your mind on the beating heart, or fixate your mind on the breathing happening now. Within yourself. And that fixation becomes a transparency point. So you can see through life. You can see through the struggles, the complicatedness, the worries, the fears. And from there, whatever you do, you're in a better position, a more grounded position, a more realistic position to take care and to bring benefit and to cultivate. Cultivate the mind in meditation and doing good deeds, in studying the Dhamma, in listening to Buddhist teachers, in volunteering, in doing acts of service, etc. So learning how to stop justifying suffering, learning how to stop justifying an identity based on anxiety, on depression, on poverty, on wealth, etc. And that training is all the more important because we tend to live in an environment that's on one hand very isolating, but on the other hand um, perpetuates this notion of a solid fixed identity, which means that whatever emotion or whatever experience or whatever idea, whatever perspective is coming up right now, we create an identity of that. And the practice allows us to uh, fixate or be aware of what's coming up now and to use that to release identification with anything. And that's where meditation happens. When we bring our attention, when we focus on the breath, there's much more awareness in the body. And then with that awareness in the body, relax any tension in the body. And as you relax tension in the body, relax involvement with everything, anything. Whatever stands out becomes the relaxing point for your attention. And this relaxation brings us then into like a mental sphere or a mental space. And then that mental space is actually mostly full of space. So try to practice recognizing that spaciousness rather than creating thoughts. Relaxing into the mental space of spaciousness. And it can be a lot of high-minded ideas about nothing and emptiness and how we now have a new intellectual perspective of approaching life. But you have to be very careful with that um, because this is also pointing towards the ordinariness of everything. So it's not saying that there's something special, something strange, something unique outside of the ordinariness of this experience, but rather that the ordinariness of this experience is profoundly not based on duality or picking and choosing. And so there's no real reasoning for creating stress or being involved in a suffering or an identity. So it's always coming back to, it's kind of being on the surfboard. Like, yes, you realize you're literally on a surfboard in an intergalactic ocean, all the cool, interesting thoughts you can have and all the, things you can come up with and perspectives about yourself and the world. You realize that you're in this wild place, right? But when it comes down to it, that's where you've always been. And now you have more responsibility to ride that wave with kindness, with consideration, with mindfulness, with detachment, with openness, flexibility, and balance. Riding the intergalactic surfboard of mindfulness and detachment. And a lot of what we get our balance from internally and externally is our generosity, our doing good deeds. That's what allows us to have relationships with other people that are not built on um, fear or desire, but cooperation, communication, collaboration, kindness, forgiveness, care, right? And it's okay to be happy. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be LGBTQ plus. But this isn't about any sense of a personal identity. This experience is not about any sense of a personal identity, gay or not, good or bad, right or wrong. It's being in the flow of this. Does relaxing that space open the mind? So I would describe it more as um, the awareness of the spaciousness of the mind, the awareness of the spaciousness of the mind um, is naturally relaxing, naturally comforting, naturally forgiving. So it's just putting ourselves in a position to be able to be open enough to be aware of that. So the idea we have about doing bad deeds is kind of like there's a big garden and you plant certain seeds in the garden. And in this garden, you can't take back that you've planted certain seeds. So instead of trying to get rid of that action of planting the seeds of wrong deeds, we want to fill the garden with lots and lots of good deeds. And the best good deed that you can do is to realize this freedom or this peaceful, open, non discriminatory awareness, or this awareness that's not based on things, or this awareness that's not based on picking this or picking that. And that's the flow of being together with everything, or just everything, everything. And so you kind of blast out all of the karmic involvements with that openness of the mind to everything, the experience of everything as it is right now, everything that is not a thing already. noticing that the ground in which all of these things and all of this clutter and all of this complicatedness of our life is coming from is actually already spaciousness. And that is the best way to not water the bad seeds, and that is the best way to release involvement with negative parts of your identity or things that you're worried about, etc. So allowing space to become paramount, allowing dropping of the mind to become an essential principle of how you use the mind. So that there's no conversation taking place, so that there's no one here, that in the appearance of someone being here, there is already no one here. Now, concerned with the approach, that's what I'm thinking about. Namo Amitabha, Namo Amitabha, Amitofo. Concerned with the approach. The approach is fundamentally based on curiosity or need. So you either have a great need for support, you have a great need for refuge, you have, meaning that you suffer or you're going through these things and you have a great need for to get out of that suffering, to get free from that suffering. So that's one approaching point. The other approaching point is a kind of sincere curiosity. And to access that sincere curiosity, you have to have a connection to a genuineness about what you don't know, about what you don't understand. And both of these correlate directly or are kind of founded on the principle of both of these is stopping and seeing, stopping and listening. Because it's not a matter of belief. It's not a matter of you understanding it. It's not a matter of you getting it. As much as you get it, you haven't. You haven't got it. Right? As much as you don't got it, you also haven't got it. So it's more that you pick up something, and what you've picked up is already poison because of the nature of your grasping onto it. And the teaching or the practice is that slowly we're letting the cat out of the bag. Slowly we're realizing the lack of efficacy in grasping, the lack of efficacy in attachment. And so then we still may be curious, we still may need support or need help, but we approach that from a place where grasping is already unreliable. And this is where authentic stopping and seeing or stopping and listening, stopping and sharing can take place. Well, Brennan, you want to be really concerned with it, especially at the beginning, to get your foot into the door. And then from there, it's experimentation and flexibility with seriousness and lightheartedness. Because both of those are still in a kind of a dualistic framework. And this is about no dualistic framework. So if I took the phone and threw it over there and yelled at it and say, I'm done live streaming, or if I emanated rainbows from my hands into the minds of everyone watching, both of those would still be empty of being permanent, of being separate from anything else, and from being ultimately satisfactory. But because there's this compulsive attachment, this compulsive grasping, the compulsive desire, compulsive fear that we don't know how to break through from or release, we're kind of stumbling. So it takes, in walking skillfully to not stumble, it takes a seriousness to try and to try new things and to try them seriously. And it also takes a lightheartedness so as not to get yourself injured or get yourself unnecessarily worked up or caught up in anything. A big part of it is certainly rooting out any kind of idealism about the way that I should be, the way that you should be, the way that the world should be, the way that things should go. And that's something that's happening moment by moment. So we stop judging ourselves and others, and we open to a unknown field of experiencing. And from there, that's where the jazz happens. Um, in terms of genuineness and then influencing from outside, really there's no outside. That's just another dualistic position. There's no inside and outside. That's just a view or an idea or a thought. But where you can be sure about genuineness and inner authenticity, so to speak, without being influenced unconsciously, is in your capacity to stop. If you can stop, you can make decisions. But how much you can stop, how open you are to stopping, is actually going to determine how much you can be navigated unconsciously, subliminally by the outside influence, outside world, etc., versus acting from this spontaneous ingenuity. Levity is always worthwhile as well. Regardless if you're being serious or lighthearted, a sense of levity is very important. And that doesn't mean you act a certain way, but that you know how to stop identifying with the way that you're acting as a personal self entity. Tips for quitting weed. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay connected. I have the capacity and the ability and the experience of quitting weed. So if you're being serious about quitting weed and you feel a capacity to be connected with me and join these kind of live streams and stuff, take your commitment of quitting weed sincerely and then follow along, and I'll be here to support you energetically. So much of this practice and developing our authority over the mind is based in mind to mind. It's based in direct experiencing. That's not actually about words and not about ideas and not about plans. Everything is cause and effect only. And this is also not about beliefs. Beliefs. So beliefs don't apply here. There's no belief in this. And this is undeniable. So this is more like this, rather than having a belief about something. You could also call this a practice of not believing anything. Not in a disassociative way, but in a way of presence. Sabay sabay.
Okay.
Oh, a bird. Beautiful. Boy. Oh. A fundamental part of this practice and this work is releasing the fixation on you having a life to live. So sitting and being right now in a place where you don't have a life to live, where there's nowhere for you to go, and there's nothing for you to do. Being like the fire. Just burning. And if you learn to burn your own fire, you can stop looking towards other people to understand yourself. And you can stop looking towards the world to find happiness or find freedom or find what you're really longing for. So this kind of live stream is, it's really a day in the life. It's an invitation. It's somewhere where people can come in and get curious and get engaged and get interested, get inspired. And then what that leads to is nothing. So developing a relationship with nothing. Hi Simcha, blessings. It's really a matter of blessings. So if you have an interest, Xin Chao, Namo Ayida Fuck. If you have an interest in a life like this, you'll have to have a lot of blessings. And a life like this is literally nothing. So nothing is happening right now. The sound is just the sound as it is, without interpretation, without someone interpreting it. It's just how it is. And the sight, the seeing, is just the seeing how it is now, without any interpretation, without any story. And, this is a position of freedom, or the lack of a position, which is freedom. And to start moving towards that path, you want to cultivate a lot of blessings. So in Buddhism, you might want to start looking into Buddhism. You might want to look at some of my YouTube videos talking about Buddhism and the path and introductions. And you just get involved with the world of freedom as far as you can connect to it, as far as you can sense it. And then slowly you're more and more prepared to enter into that world according to your blessings. Which means the results of your good deeds, the results of your wholesome activities. And we really have to start prioritizing wholesome activities, especially generosity, before we can expect to find ourselves in a field of blessings. And a field of blessings is, of course, freedom. Peaceful freedom. Peaceful, spacious freedom. And that's accessible more than anything else is. It's not about if you like it or if you don't like it. It's more about if you can be willing to breathe with it. If you can be willing to sit with it. If you can be willing to just see. If you can be willing to just hear. Seeing and hearing are great doorways or access points to freedom. But when we add on all these extra layers of thoughts and judgments and perspectives and contracts into seeing or into hearing, we lock ourselves up in this world of desire and fear. So we may not be ready to step out. We might not have the blessings right now to step out and go and become a monk or live in a forest, but we can start to set the groundwork or the framework for that life to be realistically accessible to us. You can call it patience, but I would call it, there's already a great chance for you to be a good person. There's already a great chance for you to be more generous, more kind, more patient, more open, more relaxed with what already is now. And that's There's no better field to plant your aspiration for freedom than this field of nowness. There is a subtle and a sudden path. So I'm not starting a commune just yet. It's a lot of patience. It's a lot of flexibility. It's a lot of openness. Sometimes I eat and sometimes I don't eat. But this isn't really about eating or not eating. This isn't really about doing something or not doing something. So breathe naturally without seeing yourself as breathing, but just breathing. And meet yourself through the justness of breathing, or the justness of seeing, or the justness of hearing, or the justness of the physical sensations when you rub your hands together. It's not just this moment. So instead of, if there is a moment, then it's not just this moment. There are many moments, past moments and future moments, if there are moments. So instead of trying to get what you want in this moment, use this moment to cultivate an affinity towards what you really want or what you really long for, which is spacious, peaceful freedom. So allow spacious, peaceful freedom in the face of thoughts. Notice no thought and allow no thought to be important. And breathe with the importance of no thought in a very relaxed and comfortable way. And then that's kind of the balm that we put on our mental health issues, on our life issues, etc. Rather than trying to use this balm of getting what we want or avoiding what we don't want. Because sometimes there's no choice, but space is choiceless. So become a friend to choiceless breathing. Even if it seems like there's a choice, even if it seems like you're controlling your breathing, I'm in Thailand right now. No longer short. Each step, each breath, each moment of stopping and seeing is no longer short, no good or bad, no right or wrong. So it's actually not about what we do in our dreams, but it's the waking up that counts. And then where do those dreams go? And where did they come from? Unfindable, unknowable, ungraspable. And that really, really helps us to relax. And when we have a good safety net of relaxation internally, when we develop that skill to just be relaxed and open, especially with nothing, especially with going for a walk in the forest or sitting down or laying down with nothing in particular, we can apply that to all the complications of life. And those complications become much less important and much less worrisome. And then we don't get ourselves tied up in these knots of mental health issues, really. And if we do get tied up in them, we know the power of relax and release the whole body and mind. Right? To do what? To lay down in the forest with all the fire ants and flies, and to see the trees and the sky and the movement of the wind. That's kind of like, well, Bante or Rob or Jandao or Vajra or Simcha or whoever. What are you going to do with your life? How are you going to pay your bills? You've got to start looking for job applications. You're a good person. You're a bad person. What about this? What about that? What about the fire ants? What about your clothes are going to get dirty? All of this, it comes to an end with the sound of the leaves. And this direct experience that's completely accessible and is not really a thing is more vital, more alive, more potent than anything in particular that we can think of or speak of or experience. It's kind of full of kindness, it's full of compassion, it's full of generosity, it's full of spaciousness. And it doesn't need to be this ideal. It doesn't need to be having a 401k. It doesn't need to be having your life planned out. It doesn't need to be winning the lottery. There's no need in it. There's no desire in it. There's no fear in it. It just is what it is already. And then the heartbeat and the breathing and the body and the mind become needless or are recognized as needless. You have to be patient as well. You have to give it time. It's no rush. It's no, clocking in. It's no contract. It's no business. It's just being. It couldn't be anything more natural and lovely and deeply than this. It's free. You can't sell it. You can't buy it. You can't be trained in it. So we stop trying to describe or understand or figure things out. And we use all of those points for describing, for understanding, for questioning as this point of reflecting in the ocean of spacious awareness. And slowly we develop more confidence about that. So that it's less about becoming a monk or doing special spiritual practices, and it's more about finding the spaciousness and the freedom in the ordinariness of our lives as they already are, right? As reality as it already is. But in that, we will probably notice that our capacity is more limited than we would like for it to be. And so that's why we stay connected, we take refuge in, we get involved with um, a teacher, a spiritual community, teachings, Buddhism, etc. But that's just a medicine for crying babies. And it's okay to be a crying baby. It's okay to use medicine. It's okay to need help. You don't have to get enlightened or be enlightened. You don't need to have a special experience. The ordinariness of your life is already special enough. You just maybe haven't stopped long enough to notice that. So in the meditation, we already have hopefully a good connection to that perspective of spaciousness, right? spacious, open awareness. And then we can bring our hands together like this. We can close our eyes and we take an anchor point like the breathing. We anchor into the body of spacious awareness. And then as we do that and we see the infinity of space with eyes closed, we don't cling to or identify with or get stuck on the thoughts that arise in the mind, but rather that arising of thoughts is the reminder to return or to continue with the anchor point of breathing. And we get to experience for ourselves the impermanence of thoughts. And then we notice this quality, this aspect in sounds or in hearing of just hearing. Even though the interpretive mind is there and kind of comes up and tries to understand those thoughts or whatever appears in the mind or in this through the senses, we don't take refuge in that. We don't rely on that. We rely on the breathing into and breathing from this spacious awareness that is not about anything known, anything understood. Dealing with addiction, the biggest point that comes up for me about dealing with addiction um, is living a meaningful life. So there are a lot of ways to go about living a meaningful life, but if you happen to be in America and you happen to be aware that you have addiction, find a place to start volunteering, start going to AA meetings or NA meetings, and see if there's a Buddhist temple or meditation center around you that you can go to visit. Also, very, very important, okay, is that in the process of you stepping away from addiction, you have to be patient and kind and generous with yourself as you relapse. You can't justify this cycle of self hatred when you relapse, because that self hatred and self judgment is more so the problem of addiction than anything else, right? So, moving into self care is actually seeking out community and being very kind and patient and forgiving with yourself when you fall down. That's one of the most important tools or skills to develop as you're moving away from addiction, to stop beating yourself up when you fall down. Okay, friends, any other questions before we wrap up this live stream? Um, we also have a Discord server that we are beginning to build out. So you're welcome to join the Discord server. And all of these teachings, if you want to call it that, and all of my sharing online is offered free of charge. But if you feel that it's valuable, that it brings meaning for you, please do consider to offer, to donate, to practice generosity, to help support my life as a whatever I am or whatever I'm not. And yeah, one of the ways, if you want to support and you want to give, but maybe you don't have the not able to make a donation or something like that, you can leave a like on the video, you can leave a comment, you can share, you can support that way, and that's also very much appreciated. I'll probably be in Thailand at least for the next month, and I'll go from there. Still don't have any solid plans for what's next, but I'll be in Thailand for the next month, I think. Uh, Correct way to view meaning and purpose. Just be generous, be good, try to help. Don't focus too much on yourself. And is there, have I ever overcome dukkha? Um, I don't know. I don't think there's any you or me to overcome anything ultimately. And just seeing this tree, that tree seems to have overcome dukkha. So maybe just go and meditate on a tree. Be well, be free, be happy, and relax. Don't be too serious.